We're speaking with Jason Stanley, the author of How Fascism Works, and I want to turn to the future. Both the medium-term future, but I feel like we first have to address like the next 7 days or so. There are FBI reports about the possibility of mass attacks in DC at state houses, state courthouses, local courthouses. They don't know exactly where this might be, but they're talking about potentially tens of thousands of armed individuals heading to the Capitol to try to stop Democrats from making it into government buildings, killing them if necessary, killing Republicans who won't support Donald Trump. We saw just a week ago, the Capitol Police was woefully unprepared for the most like telegraphed event in recent American history. Do you expect that these protests will materialize? Do you think that the Capitol Police and the National Guard will be more prepared if they do? Based on what Trump is saying and what you're seeing, where do you see this going in the near future?
Okay, so no one can predict it. Actually, it's quite easy to predict that there was going to be some kind of mass right-wing political violence. But here's the situation that we find ourselves in. Trump, who I don't underestimate Trump. I have a much higher opinion of him, of his tactical and strategic abilities than other people, which has guided me throughout this era. There's been no systematic attempt to study, to monitor the explosion among the far right in this country, and that I think has been deliberate. So Alex Vitale, the policing specialist, talked about how it's typical, given the given that we live in essentially a racist country, for police to overestimate the dangers in black protests or leftist protests, as those of us who participated in Occupy remember. They're not friendly police there, and underestimate the dangers in these kinds of protests. We've had years of not paying attention to the domestic threat from white terrorism and far right terrorism. Of course, not all of these people are white. There are plenty of black Proud Boys, but this kind of domestic far right terrorism. Now what we've got is an enormous movement. We have an enormous movement. The people that attacked the Capitol were not just people living in the woods doing survivalist games and with their can openers. They came from all classes, all professions. They were doctors, lawyers, everything. This is a mass right-wing movement. And that's what happens when you have a political leader who foments conspiracy theories, says that liberals are out to bring world communism to your country, and all the other, and QAnon and these kinds of extreme conspiracy theories. So what we have is a mass right-wing, armed right-wing movement of all classes. It's not just survivalists. It's not just people, not just and we've seen this all over the world when far right militarized movements become mainstream. So that's what we face. So the question is, these are also people who are members of every branch of law enforcement. So the question is, so that's a long-term problem. How it shakes out in the next week, is anybody's guess. January 6th was hopefully something. I mean, I think there's a lot of sympathetic Trump supporters in every branch of law enforcement, and so, but the signal has to be sent to them that democracy is more important than anyone's allegiance, and they're not going to get away with this. Trump's not going to win. So if Trump's not going to win, now's not the time to do your revolution. I have no doubt that no matter what happens, January 6th will be a rallying cry for this movement into the future, and maybe decades into the future. What will happen in the next 7 days? I hope enough people are saying there's going to be accountability, especially people who are sympathetic, if you're not doing your jobs.
Yeah, I hope so. And seeing in just a few years us go from Charlottesville to January 6th. I mean, God only, like, you project that forward and you don't necessarily like the path that it's taking. But finally, you've mentioned a number of different historic examples, generally that have gone very poorly for the non-fascists. Based on your research, do you have any advice hypothetically for the Biden administration or for Congress going forward? Anything that we can learn from the history of dealing with these movements to try to get us back to a place that's less fundamentally insane in so many different ways?
Yeah. Well, I think that as usual, I'll join the chorus of praising Stacey Abrams. I mean, if you look at what Stacey Abrams has done, what you've done, look at what Black political organizers have done, and young people who've registered voters. I think there's going to be a social and political movement arising, a far-right social political movement moving to the mainstream that's going to use the myth of a fraudulent election as a revenge narrative. We need anyone. We have many QAnon supporters in Congress, so we need to be explicit about that. So I think the more explicit and the more we face things and don't deny reality, the better we'll be able to deal with the reality we have. I think what we've seen is far too much minimization, both about how bad the already extant background situation was. I mean, Black Americans have been telling us since the 60s at least that the law enforcement is shot through with far-right white supremacists. So maybe we can take that seriously. And maybe we can have less minimization of the it can't happen here and these guys are clowns variety.
Yeah, that's all great advice going forward. And as some of the Capitol Police are under investigation for their actions last week, and the Secret Service is being combed through for people sympathetic to this ideology. Yeah, I think there might have been something to that infiltration argument all along. Anyone watching this, the book is How Fascism Works: The Politics of Us and Them. As always, Jason, we appreciate you joining us and lending your expertise to the show.
Thank you so much.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.